Hello, friends. My name's Amy. Welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. We're in Bible study. I'm an ordained minister. We're in the NIV, and we will be until the end of 2025. We'll start the KJV in 2026. We are in chapter 4 of Leviticus in this video, and we are going verses 1 through, looks like it's 37 to the end. We're reading it all the way through. So let's jump in. This is called the sin offering. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, when anyone sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, if the anointed priest sins, bringing guilt on the people." So if the priest sins, he brings guilt on the people. That's important. That's an energy exchange going on right there. Okay. He must bring to the Lord a young bull without defect as a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He is to present the bull at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. He is to lay his hands on its head and slaughter it before the Lord. Then the anointed priest shall take some of the bull's blood and carry it into the tent of meeting. He is to dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle some of it 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain sanctuary. Then the priest shall put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of the fragrant incense that is before the Lord in the tent of the meeting. The rest of the bull's blood he shall pour out on the base of the altar of the burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Okay, so I want you to understand what this is here. What they're saying is if the priest sins, he has to re-sanctify everything that Moses sanctified in the first place, and then anointed the priests so that they went through and anoint and redo it. He has to re-sanctify the important things in this room before he can do anything else. He shall remove all the fat from the bull of the sin offering, the fat that covers the inner parts or is connected to them, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, the covering of the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys. Just as the fat is removed from the ox, we got a footnote of B here. The Hebrew word can include both male and female, so gender non-specific with the word ox in there. Sacrifice is a fellowship offering. And then we have C as a footnote, which is traditionally peace offering, which is, it's the same in all the places. Then the priest shall burn them on the altar of burnt offering, but the hide of the bull and its flesh, as well as the head and the legs, the inner parts and the offal, that is all the rest of the bull, he must take outside the camp to a place ceremonially clean where the ashes are thrown, and burn it in a wood fire on the ash heap. So he's to take all that stuff out of camp and go burn it. But only in the holy place designated for these ashes. Okay. If the whole Israelite community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, even though the community is unaware of the matter, they are guilty. Can't claim you didn't know the law, because God considers it your job to know the law. When they become aware of the sin they committed, the assembly must bring a young bull as a sin offering and present it before the tent of meeting. The elders of the community are to lay hands on the bull's head before the Lord, and the bull shall be slaughtered before the Lord. Then the anointed priest is to take some of the bull's blood into the tent of meeting. He shall dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle it before the Lord 7 times in front of the curtain. He is to put some of the blood on the horns of the altar that is before the Lord in the tent of meeting. The rest of the blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He shall remove all the fat from it and burn it on the altar. And do with this bull just as he did with the bull for the sin offering. In this way the priest shall make atonement for them, and they shall be forgiven. He shall take the bull outside the camp and burn it as he burnt the first bull. This is the sin offering for the community. When a leader sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the commands of the Lord his God, he is guilty. Okay, so a leader in this case, he's talking about like people who might come after Moses. He's talking about not just because the priests are Aaron's type of people, but he's also talking about how Moses had set up those divisions of people to be judges. Those are all leaders as well as heads of households, heads of families, because in some cases it's a case of he's letting heads of families decide things for within family units. So if they sin because they didn't bother to go check, even if it's unintentionally, when he is made aware of the sin he committed, he must bring his offering, a male goat without defect. He is to lay hands on the goat's head and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered before the Lord. It is a sin offering. Then the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of the burnt offering and pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall burn all the fat on the altar as he burned the fat of the fellowship offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for the man's sins, and he will be forgiven. If a member of the community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, he is guilty. When he is made aware of the sin he committed, he must bring as an offering for sin for the sin he committed a female goat without defect. He is to lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it in front of at the place of burnt offering. Yeah, he used to slaughter it at the place of burnt offering. Then the priest is to take some of the blood with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of the burnt offering and pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all the fat, just as the fat is removed from the fellowship offering, and the priest shall burn it on the altar as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him, and he will be forgiven. If he brings a lamb as a sin offering, he is to bring a female without defect. He is to lay his hand on its head and slaughter it for sin offering at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. Then the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of the burnt offering and pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all the fat, just as the fat is removed from the lamb of the fellowship offering, and the priest shall burn it on the altar on top of the offerings made to the Lord by fire. In this way, the priest shall make atonement for him for the sins he has committed, and he will be forgiven. So, I mean, this is a lot of the same type of repeating stuff, but what you'll see is that it didn't matter who was in what position within the community. If they broke one of God's laws, they were sinning, whether they knew it or not, and they all of them have something they have to sacrifice, and it is very much so equivalent of the same things, except the bulls if you were to be a person who's breeding cattle, the bulls are much more rare, so probably worth a tad bit more. But that's why it's when certain people in positions, like people who are in positions of power, have to sacrifice more in order to make atonement, because they can't claim they didn't know better. Remember, it's a community of priests. That's what he wanted. Everybody holy. So they're all supposed to know better. He doesn't really, you got to know better to do better. But once you know better, he does actually expect you to do better. So until the next video, friends.